Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Gurudev, Guru, Guru, Hari, 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 Bhagavan, Hari, Hari, Brahmamsa Privrajikcha Jastu Tuturasa Srimad. His Divine Grace Abhicharam Vrindi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Famaracha Jagat Guru Param Guru Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Naravat Manachaya Vrindi ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrindi ki jai. Shri Namachaya Brahmachaya Shira Haridas Thakura ki jai. Prem se keo Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Kinobhata Vrindi ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Damodara Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunrada Kunjigodana ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Mathura Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Ayodhya Dham ki jai, Nilachala Jagannathpuri Dham ki jai, Shridham Mayapur Dham ki jai, Shri Gita Nagari Dham ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Yamuna Mai ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai, Sama Vida Bhaktavinda ki jai, Nitai Gora Premanande, our glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Namo Shri Prabhupada Shri Om Gyana Timrenda Shya Gyana Jana Sabakaya Chakshu Munitam Yena Tasman Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Inabhutali Swaram Pakadamaya Dadati Swapadanti Kam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapati Gopisha Gopika Kantarada Kanta Namostute Vanjakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Ivacha Patitanam Pavana Bhyo Vashna Vibhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutali Shri Bhakti Teta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shitatmani Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tedati Namini Namaste Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gora Vani Pracharini Nirvishisha Sunyavari Pashatyadi Satarini Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasari Gora Bhatta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay. So thank you very much for again inviting me today to for us to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So thank you all for being here. Today's reading is taken from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 10, Text 7 and 8. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ramam No. Shri Rishi Vacha Dhamam Vaham Shrotu Kamina Yuyam Me Pratyodahrita Ita Vaha Iyam Atmanam Tyajantam Santyajami Aham. I read the translation and we go to the next one. This is text 7. The great sage Dadichi said, "Best to hear from you about religious principles. I refuse to offer my body at your request. Now, although my body is extremely dear to me, I must give it up for your better purposes, since I know that it will leave me today or tomorrow." Repeat responsibly. The great sage Dadichi said, "Just to hear from you about religious principles. I refuse to offer my body at your request. Now, although my body is extremely dear to me, I must give it up for your better purposes, since I know that it will leave me today or tomorrow." Text 8. Yo Dhruvinatmana Nata Na Dhamam Na Yasaha Puman Ihita Bhutadayaya Sta Suchya Stavarai Api Yodrumi Natmanam Nata Na Dhamam Na Yasa Puman Iha Bhutadayaya Sa Suchya Stavanai Api. Word-to-word translation. Yeah, anyone who Adrovina, impermanent, Atmana, by the body, Nataha, O lords, Na, not, Dhamam, religious principles, Na, not, Yasaha, fame, woman, person, Nihata, endeavors for, Bhutadaya, by mercy for the living beings, Saha, that person, Sochia, Ishiabo, Stavarai, by the immobile creatures, Happy, even. Translation and purport by Shlaisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. O demigods, one who has no compassion for humanity in its suffering and does not sacrifice his impermanent body for the higher cause of religious principles or eternal glory is certainly pitied, even by the immovable beings. Report. In this regard, a very exalted example was set by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. Concerning Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 5, Text 34, Tyaktva Dushityaya Surapsita Raja Lakshmi, Namista Aya Vashaya Yat Agat Arayam, Maya Mrigam Tayi Tayish Isam Amvadavat, Vande Mahapurusha Te Charana Vrindam. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, upon whom one should always meditate. He left his householder life, leaving aside his eternal consort, whom even the denizens of heaven adore. He went into the forest to deliver the fallen souls, who are put into illusion by material energy. To accept sannyas means to commit civil suicide. But sannyas is compulsory, at least for every Brahmana, every first-class human being. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a very young and beautiful wife and a very affectionate mother. Indeed, the affectionate dealings of his family members were so pleasing that even the demigods could not expect such happiness at home. Nevertheless, for the deliverance of all the fallen souls of the world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and left home when he was only 24 years old. He lived a very strict life as a sannyasi, refusing all bodily comforts. Similarly, his disciples, the six Goswamis, were ministers who held exalted positions in society, but they also left everything to join the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Universe Acharya says, Yaktva Tunam Ashisha Mandala Pati Srinam Shoda Tuchavat Utwa Dina Ganeshako Karunaya Kapina Kota Shito. These Goswamis left their very comfortable lives as ministers, samindars, and learned scholars and joined Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Mahaprabhu's movement just to show mercy to the fallen souls of the world. Dina Ganeshako Karunaya, accepting very humble lives as mendicants, wearing no more than lion clothes and torn quilts, coping kanta. They lived in Vrindavan and followed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order to excavate Vrindavan's lost glories. Similarly, everyone else with a materially comfortable condition in this world should join the Krishna consciousness movement to elevate the fallen souls. The words Bhuta Dayaya Mayam Brigam Dayita Ipishtam and Dina Ganeshako Karunaya all convey the same sense. These are very significant words for those interested in elevating human society to a proper understanding of life. One should join the Krishna consciousness movement, following the examples of such great personalities as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the six Goswamis, and before them, the great sage Dadichi. Instead of wasting one's life for temporary bodily comforts, one should always be prepared to give up one's life for better cause. After all, the body will be destroyed. Therefore, one should sacrifice it for the glory of distributing religious principles throughout the world. Hare Krishna. So in today's verse, we are seeing how the demigods, when they were being tormented by Vitrasura, and they didn't have anywhere else to take shelter. So finally, they took shelter of the Lord. And the Lord instructed them to go to Nadichi to request for his body, because the Lord told them that the bones of Darichi is the only one that can kill Vitrasura. So they should go to him and beg for his bones. And for him to be able to give them his bones, he has to die. So you can imagine it. Somebody comes to you and he say, hey, the Lord has instructed me that I should come to you, that you should give me your body. You should donate your body to me because I need your bones. That is not easy thing to do, right? But here is such an exalted personality who was ready to give up his body. But in today's text, like we are reading, he specifically says, when the demigods approached him, in the beginning, he was saying, no, I'm not going to give you my body, but he was doing so to get some information from the demigods. He wanted them to teach. He wanted them to talk about religious principles. And so in the translation, in the text 7, in the translation we could read, the great sage Nagari said, just to hear from you about religious principles, I refuse to offer my body at your request. So in the beginning, he said, no, I'm not going to give you mine, because he knew that once he denies the demigods of his body, then they are going to preach religious principles to him. And he wanted to hear it. So in order to hear the religious principles, he first told them, no, I'm not going to give you my body. But if you go further to the same text, it says that now, although my body is extremely dear to me, I must give it up for your better purposes, since I know that it will leave me today or tomorrow. I will leave the body anyway. And that's why there is a saying that if even somebody doesn't kill you, you will die anyway. So this body can never survive forever. If even somebody doesn't terminate it, it is going to be terminated by itself anyway, one way or the other. One day, this body will leave you. And so this person wanted to hear the religious principles. And we see how in the next verse, verse 8, how it's explained that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the six Goswamis, they also performed this sacrifice by abandoning everything that they are doing just to save mankind by preaching the principles of the process of bhakti, which can elevate people and help them leave this temporary material world to go back home, back to Godhead. Actually, that is said to be the ultimate philanthropic work to be done, that by helping others elevate their consciousness. And that is why even in our system, as Prabhupada set it up, we have all these regulative principles that which are, given to us first to help us elevate our consciousness. By following these regulative principles, it at least brings us to the level of a human being, because it's only a human being who can show true compassion to one another, to another person. So we must elevate our consciousness to first come to the level of a human being. Then we can understand religious principles. Because if you are not human, then all that you are interested in is eating, sleeping, having sex, and defending, period. And this is the animal consciousness. But first, we must be elevated from the animal mentality to the human mentality. Then we can understand religious principles. So we have these regulative principles. And today's, the one that is being emphasized here is compassion, mercy. How these great personalities, the Lord himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his disciples, the six Goswamis, they were ready to forego their bodily comforts, everything, their bodily comforts, just to preach and raise the consciousness of people to come to the platform where they can really understand pure devotions to the Lord. And in giving, in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, going to the end, he mentioned Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the six Goswamis, and before them, the great sage, Nagari, which means that sacrifice that Nagari did. He performed that sacrifice for the benefit of mankind, for the benefit of others. So he didn't care about himself. He didn't care about his body. As long as his body is going to be used to help raise the consciousness of other people, help humanity, he was ready to forgo his body. So this is very important, how we have to learn to become selfless so that we don't only depend on our bodily comfort. And so, like I was saying, Prabhupada gave us these religious principles, and today it is emphasizing one of our principles, the principle of mercy and compassion. And that is why we talk about no meat eating. No meat eating. We desist from killing animals just to be able to develop the quality of compassion, the quality of mercy. Because the more you involve in blood, dealing with blood, killing animals and this thing, gradually, somehow or the other, it affects your consciousness. The quality of mercy gradually disappears in you. And once you lose the quality of mercy, it will be difficult to even interact with your fellow God brothers, because you need mercy and compassion to deal with each other. It's very important. And that's why all scriptures emphasize that ability to be merciful, not to kill other creatures. And so, like biblically, it is said that when God created Adam and Eve, the first instructions he gave them was what they should eat. The food that they should eat was the first instruction he gave them. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 29, he gave them the instruction how they should eat herbs, vegetables, and this and the rest. In verse 30, he gave them the power to have dominion over all living beings, that they should rule them. But specifically, he said in verse 29 what they should eat, and it didn't include meat. So, in the description of the Garden of Eden, you could see that they were vegetarians. And from Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 9, biblically, nobody ever ate meat. You can read the whole from chapter 1 to chapter 9. Nobody ever touched meat. They were all vegetarians. Meat eating started in the Bible from Genesis chapter 9. And why did it happen? That was after the flood of Noah. When the flood came, most of the vegetables, that was the food of man, was destroyed by the flood. So when Noah came out of the ark, then he asked God, now that there's nothing to eat, what should I do? But when he was going into the ark, he was asked to take 2 of every bean in the ark. So there were all these forms of animals in the ark. So when he asked God that now that there's nothing to eat, what should I do? And God said, now I've given you the power to eat everything. Everything. But he added a rule. In Genesis chapter 9, when he gave them the power to eat vegetation, he didn't add any conditions to it. But here in Genesis chapter 9, he's given a condition. He said, you can eat everything, but for every blood that you touch, I'll ask the life from you. Genesis chapter 9, verse 3 to 5. You can eat everything, but for every blood that you touch, I'll ask the life from you. Somebody tells you to eat meat and he gives a condition that if you touch the blood, I'll ask the life from you. What does that tell you? He didn't end up there. As time went on, when the vegetation begins to come up, the instructions he gave about the meat eating, he made it more strict. So in Leviticus chapter 3, verse 17, he says, throughout your generations in all your dwellings, he shall neither eat fat nor blood. In chapter 9, Genesis chapter 9, he said, no blood. In Leviticus chapter 3, verse 17, he said, fat and blood. How can you eat meat without eating fat? Because every meat has fat and blood. He didn't end up there. As time went on, when the vegetation were coming, he made it more strict, because God was gradually trying to elevate their consciousness to come back to the platform of human beings, where they should be vegetarian. They should be vegetarians, so that they can understand real religious principles. So you read Leviticus chapter 17 from verse 1. From Leviticus chapter 17, verse 10. He says, any stranger that sojourns in the house of Israel, or any member of the house of Israel, that eateth any manner of blood, I shall set my eyes against you. Any manner of blood. And that is why the Jews, the original Jews, they have what is called the kosher, the ritual meat. When they kill the animal, they will hang it up and set some fire underneath it, and make sure almost the blood and the fat is drained out of it before they touch it. And that is why they call the kosher the ritual meat. But God did not end there. As time went on, he made it more strict. He said, hey, now it's not everything that you can touch. Leviticus chapter 11. He said, now it's not everything that you can touch. Those animals that has not got parted hoofs, that does not chew the cud, don't touch them, because if you touch them, I shall punish you. Even the fishes that doesn't have scale, don't touch them. So he started separating. Then it came to a time that God realized, now my people should go back pure into vegetarian meat. And so he sent, when they were on the desert, he himself was supplying them cabbages, lettuce, cucumber, carrots, no meat. But because they had eaten the meat and have found favor and have found the taste, the nasty desire for it in their heart, they had difficult remaining as vegetarians. So they started complaining that when we were in Egypt, we were eating meat. Why have you brought us to this wilderness, Moses? And you are giving us all these carrots and cucumbers, and we are fed up. We want meat. And Moses was very sad. So he prayed to God that, God, this is what the people of Israel are saying. They say they don't like the carrots and the cucumbers. They want meat. And God said, Moses, don't worry. I shall give them the meat. I shall give it to them. And I will let them eat till it starts coming out of their nose. So there was a whirlwind, a big hurricane. God blew. And quails, they came all from the seas, from the sea. And they flew all the way to the wilderness for them to eat. And they packed them. And they said the one who packed least, packed 10 homers. 10 homers is like about 10 feet. I said, the one who put some after they packed, the one who put some in his mouth, before he even chewed it, the wrath of God descended upon them and he killed them in their numbers. And after killing them, he named the place Kibrot Hatava, where I killed them because of lust. Numbers chapter 11, from verse 25 to 31. He killed them in their numbers. Why would he give it to them and still kill them? Because they were lasting. That is the desire. That is what they were desiring for. They were not ready to listen to God. And that's why in devotional life, if you are not ready to listen to God, your life will be miserable. And the easiest way to listen to God is to listen to your spiritual master. Because by listening to your spiritual master is the mouthpiece of God. And so if you do that, then you will be listening to the instructions of God, and that will save you. Other than that, if you want to rely on your own lasting desires, you are done. Like God killed them in their numbers and called the place he brought Hatava. Most of the time you talk to the regular Christian and he says, oh, all these things you are saying is in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, nothing is like that. But you read Romans chapter 3, verse 23, and Paul said, we are all short of the glory of God because we have all sinned. We are all short of the glory of God because we have all sinned. None of us is perfect. We have all sinned. So if all of us are short of the glory of God, what does it mean? Spiritually, does it mean we are strong or we are weak? So if by Paul's calculation, all of us are sinful, then it logically means that spiritually we are weak. And then Paul prescribes something in Romans chapter 14, verse 1 to 3. He says, someone has faith that he can eat everything. Others have faith that no, they don't have to eat everything. But those who are weak in spirit, they should only eat herbs, vegetables. So if it means that if you are weak in spirit and you only eat vegetables, this implies that when you eat the vegetables, it will build you up spiritually. But he didn't end up there. He said those who eat shouldn't criticize those who don't eat. And those who don't eat, they shouldn't criticize those who eat. All things are good. You should accept it with prayers and thanksgiving. And that is a very powerful quotation the average Christian will give you. That Paul says that you can eat everything, only accept it with prayers and thanksgiving. Romans chapter 14, verse 3. But what they refuse to do is they have to go further to read the advice, the ultimate advice that Paul gave. So in chapter 14 of the book of Romans, if you read and you get to the verse 21, verse 20, 21, he says that, but it's good for you to abstain from eating flesh or drinking wine or doing anything that will let your brother stumble. He gave you this advice and you don't want to listen. And he goes further to explain. In the book of Corinthians, chapter 8, verse 31, that is the last verse. He says, if food will let my brother stumble, then I swear that me, Paul, as long as this world stands, I will never touch flesh. So what are you waiting for? And Srila Prabhupada will always quote that Jesus was saying, thou shalt not kill. He never said, thou shalt not murder. Thou shalt not kill. And the Christians will say, oh, yeah, thou shalt not kill. When he said, thou shalt not kill, it doesn't include humans because animals doesn't have souls. Who told you the animals don't have souls? In the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 19 to 21, he says, the fate of man and the fate of the animals are the same. They are all from the dust. They will go back to the dust. And they have one spirit. Nobody can say the spirit of man goes up, but that of the animal goes down. They all go to one place. So now why are you saying that you are superior to the animal spiritually? We are the same. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that everything not living and non-living, I'm the seed-giving father. So if Krishna is the father of everything, why are we thinking we are superior to others? This should tell us that we should learn the art of compassion, like the text today is telling us. That somebody is even ready, somebody was ready to show compassion, so much so to the extent that he was ready to give his own body for the benefit of the general mass of people. And what are we doing? Are we ready to be so selfless that we will sacrifice our time? We will sacrifice everything that we are doing just to uplift the consciousness of other people. Are we ready to do that? And this is what Srila Prabhupada has taught us. This is what our gurus are teaching us. How to become so selfless that we should be ready to raise the consciousness of people to come to the level of human beings. So that when you tell them about devotion, when you tell them about bhakti, they can understand. Because if you are not a human being, you can never understand bhakti. You first have to become a human being, then you can understand bhakti. Do I make sense? Yeah, I'll end here. I don't want to take my time. We have 20 more minutes. So I'll just end here and give the floor for people to give their contribution, their comments, and questions. Hare Krishna. So are there any questions? I see somebody's hand up, iPhone and Jocelyn.
Hare Krishna.
So, Hare Krishna.
This is Dina Palika. I was just wondering, how can we remain enthusiastic to sacrifice?
How can we remain enthusiastic
To sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why, Srila Prabhupada is, I don't even know how to describe Prabhupada. Him setting up this Krishna consciousness movement, he has given us all the techniques and the opportunity by which we can learn how to do these things. And so the number one thing to do is, first, we abstain. He has given us 4 regulative principles. Try to abstain from it. Even with that, it's not by our strength that we can abstain from it. But Prabhupada being so merciful, he said, okay, now I've given you the Maha Mantra. Chant the Maha Mantra. And the more you chant the Maha Mantra, the more it will purify your heart. And it will convince you that you have to be able to follow these principles. And once you follow these principles, then gradually you come to the level of a human being. And immediately you come to the level of a human being. Then the first thing, the art of compassion, being compassionate, automatically becomes part of you. And apart from that, he has given us a system where we can learn from other devotees too. The system of compassion. If even you don't know, if even you want to close your eye, Prabhupada has arranged it in such a way that we associate with each other to learn the good qualities, how to be compassionate, how to be austere, how to be, what do we call it? Clean and merciful. Prabhupada is teachers, he has given us. So the easiest way to learn how to be compassionate is to learn from other devotees that you are associating with. Because if you look at people and you see the wrong side of people, you cannot learn anything. You always think that you are very good. We are such a wonderful devotee. But if you look at the good qualities of people, then you always know that, wow, I need to learn more. I need to try harder. Because the more you look at the good qualities of other devotees, the more you want to be elevated to that platform too. So the best way to learn how to be compassionate is to learn from the devotee association. See the good qualities of other devotees, because that is how Krishna distributes his qualities. Krishna spreads out his qualities among the devotees. And so you look at the devotees and you can easily copy that quality from them. And with that, you top it up with uh, uh, your chanting of the Maha Mantra. And whenever you are chanting, that should be your mindset, praying to Guru and Krishna that please help me so that I can be very compassionate to others. And once you say that prayer, I can assure you, Guru and Krishna, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, by the mercy of your Guru Maharaj, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you gradually be able to be able to emanate this quality of compassion and mercy. Do I make some sense?
Yes, Prabhu, that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jocelyn, we can hear your question if you have question or comment.
My name is only Jocelyn when I'm in other meetings, and I always keep forgetting to change it back.
Okay, Jambavati, let's hear you.
So first, I just wanted to say thank you. Like some, my biological family, some of them still eat meat, although there's a few that have actually expressed interest in becoming, vegetarians. Those that are still eating meat, one of the who also happen to be Christians, very staunch Christians, by the way, will often say, well, they'll like quote the Bible and say something like, well, the Lord gave dominion, gave everyone dominion over everything, and normally my response is, yes, but dominion doesn't mean kill. But from your class today, you've given so many other scriptures that I can palatably share with them in terms of, why we shouldn't eat meat and what the Bible actually says about that topic. So I want to thank you very, very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Who else's hands is up? Actually, when Jesus was born, even the food he should eat was also predicted. Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14 and 15. He says, a son shall be born to you, and his name shall be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. And honey and curd shall he eat, so that he can understand the difference between good and bad.
Mm. Mm. And also, if I may say, I have also read books about Jesus being an ascetic, and that they were vegetarian.
Mm.
So yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna. The next person I'm seeing is who? James.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
thank you for the very nice class. I remember when I first met you, I told you I sent one of your I sent a lecture to my mother because yeah, my mother's a Christian, so it was nice for you to do like a very comparative kind of discourse between the scriptures. Yeah, I'm very appreciative of your angle of preaching bhakti. My question is so yeah, growing up, I grew up as a Christian, and in between different churches that I went to, I never really was ever taught the teachings of like St. Paul until I
Mm.
read them on my own.
Mm.
And my question is that throughout the different churches I've been to, I've noticed that depending on the mood of the preacher, the teachings are always very different. The same could possibly be said for uh, teachings of bhakti, but it's not as loose as it is, mainly because of my assumption is because of parampara. So my question is, there's not necessarily a parampara system within the Abrahamic teachings, is there not really at all?
There is. There is, because when Jesus chose his disciples, he told Peter, um, in Matthew chapter 16, he asked the disciples, who do people say I am? And some people say you are Elijah who has come back. Some people say you are Jeremiah who has come back. Some people say you are John who has come back. And Jesus said, but what do you say? And Peter said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood. It was revealed to you by the Spirit. And upon thy rock shall I build my temple. So even though he had all his disciples, but he chose Peter to be the next in kin in the Paramparam line. And that's why when you go to a system like the Catholics believe in that Paramparam line. And that's why they say Peter is the first pope. In the Catholic theology, they tell you Peter is the first pope. And so he handed over his mantle to the next pope, and that pope, right? But along the line, you see, every scripture it doesn't happen only in the biblical line. Everywhere it happens, even in the Vedic line. And that's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I first instructed this imperishable science to the sun god, with verse 1. And he instructed it to his son, Ishwaku. And it came down and down. And he said, at a certain point in time, this transcendental knowledge got lost. And that is why I have come again to now re-establish it. So Krishna is telling us that even in the Vedic line, sometimes the knowledge will get messed up because some people will bring their own ideas into this message. And anytime it happens like that, Krishna says, I descend to re-establish the principles of religion. So it's done everywhere. So the same thing happens. So in the Christian line, of course, paramparam is established. And even Jesus, being uh, uh, such an exalted person, He couldn't even start his mission without accepting a guru. He couldn't. And so he needed to accept a guru. So is in Matthew chapter 4, from verse 18, he accepted the initiation from John. And John didn't want to initiate him. John didn't want to baptize Jesus. Because he said, hey, you are so exalted. How can I baptize you? But he says, suffer it to be for the scriptures to be fulfilled. Suffer it to be for the scriptures to be fulfilled. Because if you don't accept me, if you don't baptize me, then how can I preach? How can I start my mission? So the system of paramparam is everywhere. Everywhere. Krishna, if that's why even when Krishna himself descends on this planet, he accepts a guru. Why would the Supreme Lord accept a guru? Because that is the established system in this world. If you don't accept a guru, it will be very difficult for you to make a headway towards the goal of life. And so it's established in Christianity. And unfortunately, when people want to dominate, when people want to bring their own ideas, and they don't just want to repeat what the acharyas have said, this is where the problem begins. And that is what I've rendered the current day Christianity to for people to think that they don't have to accept authorities, that they themselves will read the scripture and then come to understand it. I mean, come to think of it, even physically, if you want to be a doctor, all the books to read to become a doctor are in the bookshop. But you cannot just go to the bookshop, read the books, and call yourself a doctor. Who will accept you as a doctor? You must take a guru in the medical field. You study under the guru. The guru will test you. And then after he tests you, then he will give you a certificate that you have passed your exam. And then that is where you become a qualified doctor. So similarly, on the spiritual part, you need to accept the guru who will teach you. And after he teaches you, then he will order you, he will bless you to go and also teach others how to become. And so Jesus was telling his disciples, go ye into the world and let your light shine among men. He never said, go into the world and let my light shine among men. He said, go ye into the world and let your light shine among men. In other words, whatever you have studied from me, go and present it. Do I make sense? James,
Hare
do I make
Krishna,
sense?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 5 minutes. Does anybody have any comment, any more comment or question? We can never refuse parampara. Wherever we are, we have to accept parampara. And that is why, and parampara is so powerful. In 2 Kings chapter 2. 2 Kings chapter 2 from verse 11. Elijah had promised his disciple Elisha that if you follow me diligently, and when I'm leaving, if you are able to recognize me living, I'll give you double part of my power. Double part of my power. So Elisha became so diligent. And so one time he was walking with Elisha, and a chariot of fire came from the skies and whisked Elijah away. And when Elijah was being whisked, Elisha saw him, exactly like the guru promised, that if you see me going, I'll give you. So what he did, he jumped and grabbed the chadar, Elijah's chadar. He grabbed it. And because he was able to see Elijah and grab his chadar, this is saying that because he was following the 10% instructions of his guru, if you see me living. So he saw him grab his chadar. And so Elijah automatically got double part of the power of Elijah. So Elisha was twice as powerful as Elijah. And that's why your guru can empower you. Look at Srila Prabhupada. Look at the type of preaching Prabhupada did. I mean, practically speaking, Bhaktisiddhanta didn't preach like Prabhupada did he? But that doesn't mean that the glory is for Prabhupada. The glory is his guru's glory. And Prabhupada kept saying always that by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj, by the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. Why? Because his Guru Maharaj specially empowered him. And Prabhupada has also promised that if we become diligent followers, if we become sincere followers, he is also ready to empower us. And we can do. Prabhupada, I mean, there's no limit in the family of Bhakti. Prabhupada can empower you to do more than he did. Other than if a teacher cannot teach somebody to become more powerful than himself, then he's not a good teacher. Every teacher knows that I can bless someone to become even better than myself. And that's why all we need is to be sincere with ourselves. You don't need to be a packer, what do we call it? Scholar. All that you need is to be sincere in your heart, and the Guru will see your sincerity and empower you. That is all that you need. Yeah, Taraka Prabhu, I think your Taraka Prabhu's hands is up. Prabhu.
Yeah, we're pretty short of time, but I was thinking since we're doing kind of a comparative religions discussion, I was wondering if you had any support from the Bible of the concept of reincarnation.
Reincarnation?
Yes.
Yeah. In Malachi chapter, you see, like I just quoted 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 11. When Elijah was whisked up into the sky, there was a prediction that Elijah will come again. In Malachi chapter 4, verse 5 and 6, it was predicted that Elijah will have to come again before the D-Day of the Lord comes. And so always the Jews were looking in the sky, thinking that Elijah would descend from the sky like he went. And so when Elijah came, they did not recognize him. So in Matthew chapter 17, from verse 10, if you read from verse 1, Jesus had gone to the mountains with 3 of his disciples, Peter, John, and James. And on the mountains, they saw a transfiguration. Jesus transfigured, Moses transfigured, and Elijah transfigured. And so when they were coming down the mountains, they asked Jesus, why is it that the prophets have prophesied that Elijah must first come, but he has not come, and you have come, if you are the Messiah? And Jesus told them in verse 10, Matthew chapter 17, verse 10, that verily, verily, I say unto you, Elijah must first come before me, and he has already come. But you did not recognize him. You have done everything you want to do to him. So are you going to do to me? And the disciples understood that he was talking to them of John the Baptist. Matthew chapter 17, from verse 1 to 10. Now, this is the concept of the disciples. They understood that it was John. Now, what did Jesus himself say? Matthew chapter 11, from verse 10 to 15. He said, no man has been born of the womb of a woman as great as John. But the one who is even least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than him. And if you want to accept what the prophets have said, John is Elijah, whose coming was predicted. He that has ears to hear, let him hear. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodara Ki Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hari Purusha. Thank you. We'll
Hare
continue
Krishna.
another time. Hari Purusha. Timati, Vasham, Yiva, Tikala, Tika,